Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD chat. And this is a show designed to try to make the world safe for ADHDers. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist with 40 years experience, and most of it spent with a lot of ADHD people, adults, kids, families, the whole shooting match. And ADHD is really very misunderstood. Frankly, when I got my PhD, there wasn't even such a thing as ADHD. It was called childhood hyperactivity, something or other. Anyway, and it was seen as a temporary thing that your child would outgrow as he or she became an adult, and we know none of that's true. Okay, you have it. If you've got it, you've got it for a lifetime. Which brings me to last time I talked a little bit about ADHD and marriage, and the thing, knowing that ADHD is inherited. It's a genetic problem that runs in families. And the heritability index on it is around 85%, which is extraordinarily high. So that means if you have an ADHD child, one of you has an ADHD partner, most likely, okay, statistically speaking. And that sometimes causes issues over time, when it's just the two of you, no big deal. When you have a couple of kids, then it becomes more of a stressor, I think, and more difficulty. And there are probably two main things that cause difficulties. If you're married to an ADHDer, first of all, you picked him or her out. Okay, so there were some things that really attracted you. Probably they were lively, creative, good sense of humor, always ready to try almost anything. But after you've been married a few years, some of that stuff just doesn't seem so important anymore. But a lot of the problems you have are directly related to ADHD. Okay, they're executive function problems that are frequently cause issues. And basically, executive functions are basically frontal lobe functions. They're in the front part of the brain, and they help you with planning, focusing your attention, remembering, by which I mean working memory, and being able to coordinate multiple tasks. Okay, let me talk about the memory part first. Okay, memory is not a unitary construct. Okay, there are different kinds of memory. And the one that ADHDers have the most trouble with is called working memory. And working memory is just when you get an idea and you start to do something about it, and by the time you have gotten started, you've forgotten what you're doing. That's the one where you get up from the TV room and go into the bedroom and you can't remember why you went there. Okay, and to some extent that happens to all of us at middle age or so, but ADHDers have more trouble with that earlier. So, you say, hey, I want you to go ahead and on your way home from work, pick up da 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 da. Working memory failures mean he probably is going to totally forget that, say he, if it's the husband, was ever even asked to do anything. And that can be frustrating, especially if you take it personally and think it's directed at you. Okay, that's the working memory part of things. And maintaining a focus of attention is, well, you have to do that to get stuff done. And so their attention is always wandering off, to the next interesting thing, to the next more interesting thing. Like in my house, we have what are called episodes of the bustle, which is when all of a sudden everything that's seen has to be dealt with, which can really result in a whirlwind of housekeeping sorts of activities. And it's just that ADHDers, it's not that they can't pay attention, it's that they try to pay attention to everything. And, like most things, when you try to pay attention to everything, you can not really pay attention to anything. So, it just goes from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And if all you wanted was maybe we do the vacuuming now, and we find out that, the room you weren't even interested in vacuuming has been dusted and the furniture rearranged, but the vacuum has not even come close to it. That's having troubles with maintaining a focus, and that's a prime characteristic of ADHDers. So what do you do about that? Okay, you've got all these things. Your partner has basically got inborn problems, that mean it's unlikely that you're just going to, by an act of will, be able to remember every time you tell him to do something, or ask him to do something, or ask her to do something. It's just not going to happen. And, many people who don't exactly understand what's going on take that personally and think that it's, he doesn't care about me, or she doesn't care about me. I'm so sick of saying the same thing to her over and over again, or to him over and over again. So it's not going to change. So unless, there are compensatory strategies, okay, I'll tell you that, that, you've got to encourage them to use, and be patient about it, because it's going to take some time. With an ADHD, there is no such thing as one trial learning. It's over time, and it's little things like, okay, executive functions. Executive functions are things normally most of us keep in our heads, and, we have a little plan that we're following. Okay, ADHDers not going to do that. So you've got to do what I call externalizing executive functions. That is, put them out somewhere in the environment, like a checklist. That's kind of an ideal thing, is you have a checklist, you do one step, you tick it off. And then you see, oops, I got another thing to do, and you tick that off. Okay, it's seems obvious, and it seems kind of simplistic, but it really works better than just telling them, I want you to do this, 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 and this, and then leave them to their own devices. And I guarantee you, you're not going to like the result. It's an interesting thing, and you've got to always balance the positive, the things that attracted you in the first place. They're still there, okay? And accept that you're going to have to figure out some ways to get the rest of stuff done, okay? And tell us, instead of just doing verbal requests, for something to be done later in the day, maybe write it down, in one particular place where that gets checked frequently. You have to use reminders and, take notes and all that sort of thing. If you don't, it's not going to happen, and there's not going to be happy times, I guess, at your house. So, you got to recognize that. Like I say, and the externalizing is, there are well, what all kinds of different, you can buy the commercial products that let you put say a checklist on the wall, and have them, basically do what's on the checklist. You have to figure out a place you want to post that kind of stuff. But and the other thing is you've got to work with well, it's just like I've got another kid, that sort of attitude. Um, it's it is what it is. If you want it done, you've got to figure out how to make it work, and how to get them to do, uh, and be reminded to do the things you've requested. And that's just not going to happen a without some kind of a visual reminder, something out there that shows them, oh, hey, on the noteboard, I got a list. I'm supposed to do. And also, sometimes people working with ADHDers tend to over-explain things, and if you've got a very long explanation for what you want done and why you want it done, and the history of doing that sort of thing, forget it. We're dealing with instantaneous attention and instantaneous redirection of attention. It's boom, I'm paying attention. Oh no, what's that? It goes that fast. So you've got to get your message out quickly, and don't use any extra words, and don't make it complicated, and just keep it simple. And you may have to do more than the usual work to get routines in the household. And it may be on you to actually write down what the routines are, so everybody knows and everybody can follow them. You're living with somebody else now, and the way you grew up is not the way they grew up, and the routines that you had in your house growing up are not the same thing as the routines he or she had in their house growing up. Most of the time, okay? Occasionally, there's a huge overlap, but not, the days when you married the girl down the street, and stayed in the same town you were born in, and had, made your living there, and then, died and were buried in the local cemetery. That stuff doesn't happen as much anymore. I mean, there are still some folks who live that way, but most of us don't. Especially those of us who marry ADHDers, because ADHDers are gypsies, moving around, doing stuff. Hey, what's this? Oh, that's cool. That kind of thing. And so, to the extent that we have a little bit of that in ourselves, we're going to have to understand that our routines are not their routines. And so you got to figure them out, and you got to get them. Actually, get them down on paper is the safest thing to do. Someplace where everybody can see them, and it's helpful with your ADHD child, but it's also helpful with your ADHD spouse. So and you got to work out the whole, well, who died and made you king kind of thing. There's some of that. So you have to negotiate. You have to be a good negotiator. Because you want to. ADHDers get enough criticism. If your spouse is an ADHDer, they've had a lifetime of criticism and a lifetime of not meeting some people, their parents, their teachers' expectations. So you got to be real careful about this, about taking over and that sort of thing. So you've got to work out, how are we going to negotiate this routine? Okay, I want to, hey, can we talk about how we get it, get out of here in the morning, because it seems like it's chaos, and I have, done a little research and stuff, and this is one sample, one way of doing it in the morning. What do you think of that kind of thing? Get them involved in it. They're not stupid. Matter of fact, they tend to be brighter than average. I know my own ADHD child is like 10 points, IQ points smarter than his siblings. And I know because I measured it myself. All psychologists' kids get tested. It's routine. We all say we're not going to do it, and we all do it. So anyway, okay, I hope that's been a little bit helpful. The idea of anything, you marry somebody, they're going to be different. And the way to make a marriage last is to adapt and adjust to their differences, and they adapt and adjust to your differences. Okay, with ADHD, you've got both the benefit of having a bunch of specific things are going to be problematic, and then there are the surprise things, so that everybody gets. So you want to look at it in a balanced kind of way. Okay, you pick this person out from all the possibilities there are in the world. You pick this person to marry, to have kids with, So there must have been some reasons for that. Okay, and it's important to be able to remember those. I'm 100% positive that a lot of it has to do with them being somewhat creative and energetic, and willing to take risks, and having a good sense of humor, all those things. And they have what you both as a parent and as a spouse, you kind of, sometimes they come out with some just amazing things, things you never thought about it that way if you're a neurotypical. So learn to appreciate that and learn to enjoy that, because it makes living a little more exciting and interesting. Okay, that's me for this week. I am Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat. And this is a show designed to help make the world safe for ADHDers, because we need ADHDers. We need people who think outside the box. Neurotypical thinkers are really good at maintaining the same system. They aren't so great at creative problem solving and adjustments to the system. So that's what we need ADHDers for, people who think outside the box. And any comments on this content of this week or last week, or shoot, anytime you've seen the show, please, I think it was down there somewhere, and I get it eventually through magic, I think. I am not the world's most strongest technological person, but I get them anyway. So, if you have ideas, comments about the show, you have comments about topics you'd like covered, whatever, just let me know and we will try to deal with it. And ADHD is complicated. You don't just pick it up because you read a book. It takes some experiences and some time. And I'm working on courses and membership groups and things like that for people who have ADHD families, shall we say. And I'll let you know a little bit more about that in the future. Because my whole thing is, I'm retired from private practice, so I'm doing this stuff kind of for fun, kind of to still contribute, but to see what we can do, and help out a little bit. Because if you don't know what's going on with ADHD, it looks like you've just got somebody who just doesn't care about much of anything, and that's hard to live with. Okay, I will catch you next time. And remember, ADHDers are the ones that solve the difficult problems in the world. Okay, catch you later.